Right, morning again, guys. So Sunday, so I'm gonna knock all the pistons and everything out of this and get the crank out of it, and pull this rest of this block down today. So that's that. Anyway, got to pick that yesterday, and there was some gaskets in amongst some stuff, but I think it's actually for the later, like 318s, like 273s, all that sort of stuff. But some of it will be usable because I think that some gaskets are interchangeable, but I'm not sure 100%. I don't know whether these head gaskets will work, but because I know the cranks and the rods and bearings and stuff are all interchangeable. I know camshafts aren't because the valves are around the other way because the heads are different. So yeah, like the sumps and I don't know, there's just bits and pieces here, some bolts, push rods, one of the other pistons, so I pulled one of the pistons out to have a look at the bores. And down here is the heads and the intake. Still only the old 2-barrel. Unfortunately, they didn't really in the polys have 4 barrels here in Australia, which is a bit of a pain because they're just like a 4-barrel intake would be a lot better, especially performance-wise. But and to get a 4-barrel intake here, like even an aftermarket one, is just a horrendous cost. And this is the other heads, so I'll strip these down too at some point. Whether I do these today or not, I don't know. But I may just leave them together and just give them a general clean up on the surface anyway. Somehow, I'm just not quite sure. But yeah, we'll give them a bit of a clean up. So yes, spare set of heads, spare block. Depending on what these balls are like, the difference between the two. Because there's, to be honest, like they're both very, very, very similar in wear. Like you can barely feel on top of this block a ridge, and I mean like barely. Like there's not even anything to catch your finger, like your nail on, but you can just feel it's there. So you'd basically get away with a hone in that block, I reckon. And this one here, like apart from like there's a bit of surface rust and stuff because unfortunately it's been sort of exposed to the weather a little bit, but I reckon there's even less wear. I'd have to really clean it up, but what I can feel like is that you can, like in the clean parts of the bore, like there's almost nothing at all on this, which is really, really good. It'd be interesting to see whether this is still standard or not. I'm not 100% sure. I can't on this piston without cleaning it up. I need to sort of have a bit of a better look and just see whether this is still a stock piston or not. And I'll have a look at the showers too and just see whether there's any whether it says they're oversized or undersized or whatever. Like, because this might be a better block to go with, as long as there's no pitting from surface rust in the bores or anything like that. So like at the end of the day, like I should have 2 good blocks to use. So depending on what happens in the near future, I'll get this up and running, registered on the road, and so yeah, at least I've got a really good spare block, one way or the other, depending on which one I end up using. And it'll be interesting just to have a decent look at the crankshaft and all that sort of stuff, see which is the better one to use. So yeah, I reckon between the two of these, I reckon we'll should be able to build up a reasonably cheap motor. Like if these bores are good and everything, like and the pistons clean up okay and stuff like that, you know, like I might get away with sort of a dingle ball rebuild, if you know what I mean. Just put rings, bearings, give it a hone, clean the and I'll just do a wee bit of work on the heads just to lift the flow, and possibly just maybe even get the block decked, just drop, you know, lift the compression a little, and maybe just to skim off the heads. So I think these are around the 9 to 1, I think. Well, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think they're about 9 to 1 because they're a fairly flat top piston. You know, they've got the, but I'm not sure, you know, like, I'm not sure if that's right up or not, but because the other one wasn't assembled, so the pistons were in it, so I'm not sure if that's right at the top or not. I'd have to turn it over and just check, just to see where top dead centre is. But so yeah, like if you just having a bit of a measure up, you might be able to see how tight the chambers are, and just even just see if I can find how much valve clearance there is. Might free up one of those heads, bolt it on and turn it over, and just put just leave one piston in and the crank in, and get an idea and just see how close the tolerances are. You may better, you know, just take a shave off the block, just deck the block to make sure it's straight, and skim the heads and see if we can get the pressure up a little bit. Just get a little bit more usable power out of these things. It's being only what are they, about 240, 230 horsepower factory. This is also a 66 block. So it must be what, one of the last of them. I think it's, here's the, sorry about the shaky. So what are we with? First month, 20th day of 66, and it was daytime, and must have been about 3 o'clock. Oh no, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm guessing daytime. It was made, according to that pointer. Well, that's when the casting was made. So yeah, I'll strip this down a bit further. We'll knock some more pistons out, and we might just leave that one in and see if I can find top dead centre and just see if that's how high that deck is. And yeah, we'll come back to you later on when we've got a bit down a bit more. Righty, cheers. Right, how you going, guys, again? How do I get this to focus on that? Not sure if you can read that or see that. I think this is stock, this block. Bit hard to see, but I think, yeah, sure it's stock. But I've got it stuck. This piston's stuck, so I've just went and got some strong, like, WD-40 CRC. This is Inox, which is an Australian product, which is meant to be, it's a bit more potent. So I've just sprayed it in that bore and I'll let it soak for a bit. I'll go have a coffee and whatever, and hopefully I can get this piston to break free or to come free. But yeah, like now that since I've undone this, the corner rod off the crank, I can turn the rest of the pistons easy. Just this one I can't get to move, so hopefully with a bit of a soak for a bit, and we might be able to get it to break free. So yeah, I'm thinking this block might be really never been apart, and probably really, by the feels of it, it's done piss all work. So I'm hoping with a bit of luck, if I can get this piston out, we can get the rest of them out and actually give the block a real good clean up, and just see, or hopefully we might better do bugger all to this to actually use it. But who knows, just because there's been a bit of corrosion on it, but hopefully I might be able to get it to clean up without leaving any like major damage to the boards without having to bore it, which would be nice. Save me a few dollars just to get this thing up and running. And then later on down the track, like I can always rebuild that other motor and bore it and whatever and put a bit more horsepower into it. But just have this going to get us moving and get the car on the road. So I'll go with coffee, let this soak for another, half an hour, sorry. And see if we can get this piston to shift. Righty guys, cheers. There you go guys. Right, I've finally got this motor down and got the stuck piston out, but unfortunately in here it's just, I don't know if you can see down there, it's just some light pitting in that bore, and I don't think it's good enough to be, I think it's too deep. May not be, but I think it's too deep to just give a hone and throw rings in it. Like I could be wrong, but yeah, it just feels it's deep enough, which is a bit of a shame because it's a totally standard block. Like this is the mains, like that's, you can read that or not, but that's standard bearing for the mains, and the Conroe bearings are all standard too. Bore's standard, but unfortunately, where its piston is it? Oh, that one. The one that was stuck too, like, so even if I could use the block, like I'd have to get another set of pistons because it's quite pitted between the rings and around the top edge. Like I don't think it would clean up to be usable. Like there's too much pitting in there. Like as you can see there, like that's quite a decent bit of pitting. So. So they're junk. Well, that one definitely is, and you're gonna have to bore it to, I don't know, 20 or 30 or whatever. I don't know if they make 10 over, but definitely 20 minimum anyway, if they don't make 10s. So like that's really though, that's a bloody good spear block. So I'm probably going to have to go back and end up using this one. Now I pulled in the other pistons out thinking maybe, like I could have used the pistons in that, like when I seen that one was junk before I cleaned it up. Yeah, this is 40 over. So like they're no good for that without boring it. So, and the lip in this is so minimal. I think we're just better off to give this a bloody good clean up and a hone and new rings and bearings and see what cranks better between the two, and maybe get a camshaft reground, and see what heads are better, whether those heads are better or those heads are better once they're all cleaned up, and build a motor out of that and just keep that one for a rainy day. Maybe build up something with a bit more horse, push the compression up a bit, and put something a bit more radical cam in it and give a 2-barrel or 4-barrel manifold or something later on down the track if that happens. So yeah, like it wasn't a waste of time. Like it wasn't as though I was bored to 60 or anything like that, and it was not bored home junk. So it's a real good spear, excellent spear block. The crank will be fine too, like it may need to be ground to 10 over. I need to double check to see what this one is. I can't remember. So like I may end up using that crank in this block. If this one I need to double check to see whether this is 20 over or 10 over or whatever. because that's still standard. So like I might get away with a standard set of rings on one side of it, and a set of 10s over or something like that, because all the bearing surfaces look really good except for the one that had the bearing, well, they had the rod moved and it's been exposed, so you might have to grind that one, or the con rod ones anyway, the big ends or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, so we'll definitely get a motor. We'll get a motor out of both easy enough. That one there needs board, and that one then we'll get away without it, for a cheap rebuild in the meantime, till such time get a bit more money to throw around. So definitely wasn't a wasted trip, but yeah, it's a shame that was left to the elements, because it would have been a real good standard motor rebuild. So that'll do for today. I don't think there's much else to tell you. No, that'll do. So yeah, it's a shame, but that's all good. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Alright guys, we'll see you later. Cheers.